All right. Welcome back to Gridiron Icon, the podcast. I am the host, Stacey Bauman, joined by my better half and NFL legend, Preston Denard, and we are excited to welcome in what I think, and it's our show, so we get to say it, one of the greatest Los Angeles Rams of all time. Drafted in the second round in 1983, this former wide receiver seems to be a theme on this show. Put up almost 14,000 receiving yards on 814 receptions and 65 touchdowns. He led the NFL in receiving yards in 1988, was a two-time All-Pro and three-time Pro Bowler. This icon also grew up in Fresno, California, where he starred in track and field and was the state champion triple jumper in 1979. He went on to break numerous records at Fresno State University, where he caught passes from a familiar name, Jeff Tedford, and he still, in 2022, holds the NCAA record for yards per catch in a season at 24.4. I'm guessing you know who this is. If you're not watching on our YouTube channel, it is number 80, the iconic Henry Ellard.
Got your own fan club here. Welcome, Henry.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
This is so exciting.
It is. It is. You can see Stacy's face. We've been waiting on this for a long time. He says, I like you, Preston, 88, but I like that other guy too. Well, you know what? I want to start and kick this thing off and have you share something. When we played and you were drafted in 83, and I had that one wonderful 1 year to play with you before going on Buffalo and finishing in Green Bay. But we used to call you Hop Sing. And of course, it comes and originated from a very special thing that you used to do. Tell us about that, because Joe Sweet told me to tell you hello and say hi to Hop Sing.
Yeah. For me, it started off as Grasshopper. And where it came from was that when I was at Fresno State competing in track, some of the guys would come out and watch me jump. And when they came out that one particular day and watched me jump, all of a sudden the name Grasshopper came about. And went from Grasshopper to Hop Sing. And that's kind of how it stuck, from then on.
Well, I can tell you from firsthand, you had some hops, so it is appropriate. Take us back to the early days when you started in sports. Maybe football was or was not your first activity in sports. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, football was my first love, for sure. And it's something I always wanted to play, growing up. It's funny because growing up in my neighborhood, if you go back to my childhood days and talk to my friends, they would have said I would have been the last guy they thought would have had the opportunity to play at the NFL level, But and I was just one of those guys. I was a late bloomer. I was a rut growing up. I was the last guy to get picked on the team. You take him. I don't want him. You take him. And that's just how it was back in the day. But it was a motivator for me to prove people, I can do what I need to do when I try. And sure enough, one thing led to another, and I was blessed enough to play in the NFL for 16 years.
Wow. Did that surprise you as you grew up to realize how easy things came to you as an athlete?
Yeah, but I wouldn't say they came easy.
Okay.
And like I talk to most kids, it's about putting in the work. And I just kept working, is what I did, especially early on when, things wasn't going well for me. I just had to really put the time and the effort in. And my mom always told me, Henry, go out there and give it 110%. And that way, at least if it doesn't work out, you've given it everything you have. You have nothing to be ashamed of. And I always remembered that. Between that and my older brother telling me I would never make it, that was a motivator for me.
We've heard that a few times, haven't we?
Yeah, sure enough.
I love it. Mm-hmm. I got to hear some stories from you guys as teammates in the one season you played together. Preston, you were in your last year with the Rams, right?
I sure was. 83.
I'm gonna tell you this though. I mean, for a young man coming from Fresno, California, this small little town, Preston took me under his wing and taught me the ropes. If it wasn't for him, I don't know how far I would have gone. But I owe a whole lot to Preston and taking the time to take me under his wing and teaching me how to be that route runner and how to get open.
There you go. I'm glad somebody listened because Drew Hill wasn't listening. He was just all speed. Henry, thank you for that. Well, it was a joy because, at that level, you see a lot of young talent, a lot of exciting talent and potential talent that really can perform at that level. not all the guys do come in and perform as expected, but you certainly represented that, and your career just took off. Stacy talked about the over 14,000 yards, and I had over 14,000. I should be in the Hall of Fame, but I got all that in practice. So I got enough of those in practice. But what I do remember is how hard you worked, and it was such a thrill to see someone else on the other side that worked as hard as I did. And I tell you what, you had a world of skills, and I'm sure the NFL, that first step is a little tough to figure it out. And it always does take someone to kind of bring you along and show you the ropes. But once you had those reins in your hands, you were on a roll. Tell us about the rookie year, how it felt for you when you started. We'll back up a little bit, but tell us a little bit about what that was like for you and how big a task was it in the beginning and how you came to conquer it.
Just, like I said, coming into camp, you're not sure, what's going to happen, how it's going to work out. And my biggest thing, like I said, just put in the work, do what I can to see where this thing leads you. And that's what I tried to do, just get in and just work on fundamentals, the details of my assignments, and like I say, with your help and just kind of just learn me the little ins and outs of route running and what I need to do to a guy to help him get open, really made it easier for me. And also going back to Fresno State, we ran a pro style passing attack. So it really helped me as a route runner to have that to my advantage. And a perfect example of this, going into training camp, of course, John Robinson was the coach. Our first year coach, he brought in one of his receivers named Jeff Simmons from USC. And I'm like looking at this guy and I'm like, oh my God, this guy from USC, And the difference is USC was a running team. Right. And I didn't, realize it at the time until I watched Jeff Simmons run a route. And when he ran a route, I was like, wait a minute. Nothing against Jeff Simmons. But I said, this man played at USC and it just boggled my mind. I just was expecting something completely different. Yeah. I guess what it was compared to where I'd come from. And that's what gave me an advantage. In fact, we had a pro style pass mix. So I got a chance to run pretty much every route in the book over and over and over again. And that gave me an advantage. And I realized that once I watched Jeff run around compared to the way I run around. It just gave me an advantage over a guy like that came from a bigger program, but they ran the ball a lot more than we did. We threw the ball a lot more often.
Unbelievable. Yeah. I'm looking at those numbers from Fresno State, over 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns your last year before you came in. That's I remember when you getting you in the second round, I was dancing. I thought how did we pull that off? Incredible numbers.
Yeah, it was just like I said, I was blessed to have Jeff Tefford as the quarterback my junior and my senior year. And Jim Sweeney was just let to go. And I had a partner on my other side at Fresno State with Stephon Page, who also played 9 years in the NFL. It set the NFL record before Flipper Anderson broke it.
Right.
Receiving yards in one game.
Right,
so exactly. I had a counterpart that made things, a little easier for sure.
That's just incredible. The numbers you put up, still holding that record at 24.4. That's unbelievable. Not an era like those USC teams. Yeah, it was 2 yards in a cloud of dust. Wasn't that the phrase? To put up those kind of numbers in the early 80s was unbelievable. Did you have any recruitment piece or any conversation with Davante Adams? That's got. Yeah. I'm just wondering if you know each other. Yeah.
No, going to Fresno State, I did not. I kind of met him after the fact. Gotcha. Matter of fact, when he was coming out of Fresno State, going into the draft, where he had the same agent that I have, and so I got a chance to meet him and talk to him a little bit. But it made me proud, because at one point Fresno State was considered wide receiver university because we were producing, Stephen Baker, who played with the Giants for a number of years. We just had Bernard Berrien, who's another guy that came out that put up some big things, and we were producing those guys. We year in and year out, and we took a lot of pride in it.
Oh yeah, unbelievable wide receiver tradition at that school.
There's a great history with it. Tell us about the relationship with Jeff Tefford. What was that like playing for him? And do you see where he is today, the kind of person he was back in college?
Yeah. He was on top of the game. He directed everybody, telling us where we need to go. In this one moment, I believe it was my It was my senior year. We were playing Montana State. And it's just one of those things where you kind of in the zone with the quarterback. It's like I was lined up on the left-hand side of the field. I lined up, looked at the defense, turned my eyes to Jeff, and then we just nodded at each other. And knew exactly what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, 60 yards later, I was in the end zone.
There you go. There you go.
But yeah, Jeff just made my job that much easier. I just ran around. He put the ball there, and sure enough, it was easy.
A very successful college career, and now you start hearing the buzz about being drafted. Were you fairly confident about that was going to happen? Did you have any doubts? What was that experience like going through that?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't sure. I was always like that. Up through my senior year, I still didn't know if I was going to get drafted or not. So you start getting a few letters from a few teams. You say, okay, maybe, but until it happens, you just never know. And thank God back then it was on New York time, and I was on the West Coast, so it was early in the morning, which was good because I wasn't sleeping anyway. I was glad it came early, right? Because nerves was just racking, and it's funny because there was a lot of talk, a lot of buzz about me possibly going to the Raiders, which again in California, I'm like, I couldn't ask for a better situation. But then when Mosbar was taken. After that, it was like Washington Redskins, New York Jets, Miami Dolphins, all these East Coast teams, and I'm a West Coast boy. I mean, I'm a mama's boy. Yeah, that's the last place I wanted to go. But one thing but the Rams told me, John Robinson said, we're going to try to draft Eric Dixon in the first round. And if you're around in the second round, sure enough, we're going to draft you. And sure enough, that's how it happened.
Wow. That's unbelievable. I mean, nowadays you hear a lot of the players complaining that, these teams made promises about where they're drafting them, and it didn't work out that way.
No, it didn't.
And that's how it works.
Not at all.
You just never know.
Unbelievable. So you're in this long tradition of great Rams wide receivers. You choose number 80. You were number 80 before Isaac Bruce was number 80, for those of us that are old enough.
Right.
To remember that. But I think the thing that blows me away, and I'm just going to say it right here in our time together, and I don't want to make you uncomfortable, put you on the spot, but I am, and I know Preston's going to agree, I am absolutely beside myself that you are not in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, my friend. I don't understand. There's two Rams that deserve to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame that aren't. Well, Preston will add Rosie Greer, and he'll talk about that. But yourself and London Fletcher, whose numbers, performance, and longevity is mind-numbing to me. But you did, this is a long way of asking, you did all that, Henry, with a vast number of quarterbacks that I watched you do it with. Jeff Kemp, Jim Everett. I mean, how did you do that?
13 quarterbacks.
13?
See, he knows.
Yeah.
Of course he does. Oh, my goodness.
Could probably run them off for you really quick.
I can go through a few of them. I'm trying to remember if you were there with Dieter Brock. And
yes.
Okay. All right.
The championship game against the Chicago Bears.
That's right.
He took us to
That's right.
He took us to that championship game.
Unbelievable. How does a wide receiver do that? How do you deal? I mean, quarterbacks are all different, right? The ball comes out of their hand different. Was there a secret as to why you were so successful with so many different quarterbacks during that time?
Building the trust between us, me and the quarterback was the biggest thing. Them knowing I was going to be where I needed to be when I was supposed to be there, and just throw it to the spot, I'll get it. And that's what I tried. I tried to stay consistent as a route runner. And when you got a quarterback, that's know that you're consistent, sure enough, they're going to look at you, especially when the heat is on. They know they can trust you, that you're going to make a play for them.
Unbelievable. So, I mean, all these different personalities, did you get along with everybody? You guys just spent extra time together? I think Rams fans who listen into this podcast are going to be like, how did Henry do that?
Yeah, I mean, and you have to stay tight-knit with them because, again, if you want the ball put in your hands, you're going to have to be real good with them. That's for sure. And it was just one of those things where, like I said, just the consistency of which I tried to do it and show them, I'll be there. Just lay the ball out. Give me that opportunity. I'll make a play for you. And that's what I tried to do.
Unbelievable. I mean, it's just an unbelievable career. So I got to ask this too. In what world today in 2022 would the number one wide receiver be returning punts? In no world.
I'm gonna tell you this. This is what you need to understand. Oh, I did it back in high school. I didn't actually do it at Fresno State, maybe once, but for the most part, once I got to the NFL. When you draft Eric Dixon in the first round, guess what? You're not gonna get the ball very often.
That's true.
So I tried to find a way. Okay, what can I do to help this team? I get my hands on the football. So sure enough, Gil, who was our special teams coach, said, how about punt return and kickoff return? I said, oh yeah, I'll give it a shot. Whatever I can do, to help out the team and give me an opportunity to make plays. That's what I'll do. And that's how I became a punt returner. And it worked out well for me. It took me to the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
And my first NFL touchdown was actually a punt return against the New Orleans Saints.
Yes, it was. And you know what? He says that very, very, very graciously, but he could have played anything he wanted to. He was just that gifted and had really no idea that he could return punts until he went out there and did it that one time. And he just became the punt returner. So smooth, so graceful. And it was the same effort and the same fluidness as he played wide receiver. And it was so natural for him. And I tell you what, you brought another perspective to our game because now we became even more of a threat every time you were back there. And of course, Leroy Irvin had returned punts too. So we had a great scenario. Yeah. And talking about that, would you have wanted to continue through the rest of your career returning punts, or you have met your match when you became full-time as a receiver?
Yeah, and I think it was a big thing. As long as we had another up-and-coming young guy that was willing to do it and was good at it, I didn't mind turning the reins over to him. That's kind of what it was with Leroy. Leroy did it until I came along. And he became a fourth-time starter, as a DB. And they say, okay, you can do this. He'll give me little advice on different things and how to do it and how to punt, how to set a guy up and things like that. Right. So I just took it over, and sure enough, Gerald Henley came in. And sure enough, he became our return, as well as Cliff Hicks. We just had a couple of guys that could do it. And I said, okay, I'm full-time now. So they wanted me to take me off of that anyway to keep me healthy.
Absolutely. It's absolutely uncanny to look back and go, Henry Ellard was returning punts. I mean, that you're not seeing a lot of that. You're not seeing the big guys today, Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase. Right. They're not returning punts. It's a dangerous special team. Did you like special teams? I mean,
yes, I did.
At the soul level? Okay.
Yeah, like I said, it gave me a chance to be part of the game and and impact the game.
Yeah,
it was about me to help the team out any way I can, and I enjoyed every bit of it.
That's incredible. Absolutely amazing to put up the numbers you did at wide receiver and play special teams. Again, another reason to be talking about Canton, Ohio here, folks. I have to ask you, as the fanboy in the room here, for all the Rams fans that listen to our show, some of the fan questions, because you're held up in very high esteem in Rams history. Was there a teammate or coach during your time with the Rams? We'll talk about the Redskins. Some of us aren't over that situation yet. Same thing when Preston went to Buffalo. Same thing when Eric went to the Colts. I was like, this is awful. Right. But was there a teammate or coach that really had an impact on you? It's cool to learn about your and Preston's friendship. Was there anybody else?
Yeah, Jimmy Ray, my wide receiver coach when I came in. I mean, He tested me, and just had me thinking outside the box on a lot of things, how to be a receiver and how to focus is what he really challenged me on. And I owe a lot to him because he kept me focused is what he did, just in the way he challenged me week in and week out.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay. Who was the toughest defensive back you faced during your time with? I mean, you can include the Redskins. We're very biased on this show.
No, I mean, it was a lot of good players out there. Of course, Prime Time is one of the ones that come up, but I enjoyed playing against him because you had to be on top of your game when you played against a guy like that. Same with Darrell Green. There's another guy named Carl Lee who played with the Minnesota Vikings. That really kind of jumped out. It's Albert Lewis. With Kansas City and with the Raiders. Just a lot of guys that were really good players, but I love playing against those kind of guys. It allowed me to measure my game and what my game was at that point in time.
Out of all those guys, who was the toughest?
I mean, between Darrell Green and Prime Time, because Primetime was just a straight out athlete.
Yeah.
I mean, he went and played baseball one day and came back and played in the football game the next.
Yeah, that's an athlete.
I mean, it's crazy, but and it's so funny because whenever I run into Dion, it was a game in Anaheim. He was with the Atlanta Falcons. Young guy, like the young guys are very aggressive at times. We're running routes. I'm running a corner route, and he's just maybe a half a step away from it. So I was talking to the coach. I was like, "Look, we got a chance to get him now because he's primed for it. He's running these routes for me." But sure enough, I'm on the left-hand side of the field. I'm pushing up, running the corner route. I didn't even start the corner route. I just kind of stuttered my feet. He ran to the sideline. I took a step out and went right back up the field for a touchdown.
I'm going to go find that clip.
It was the record setter, too.
Wow.
On that particular fan, it's kind of funny because the fan was in the corner end zone. It was an end zone right where we come out from the locker room. He was sitting right in that corner and took a picture right as the ball was falling into my hand. And he gave a picture, copy of it to me. So I'm really thankful for that.
Wonderful.
It worked out well.
I love that. Who says there's not LA Rams fans?
Yeah,
that is fantastic. So was it tough for you to leave the Rams? I mean, Preston and I have on this show have talked about him leaving the Rams and some of the circumstances around that. It was a gut punch for those of us that are diehards, but
because there wasn't anything being said. I was in the last year of my contract. And, of course, back then, the free agency was nothing like it is nowadays. That's for sure. And because let's go back, going into playing through my first contract, which was a 3-year deal. We hit a roadblock. John Shaw. Oh my God.
Yeah.
He's famous.
That is another story.
That's like a whole show. Even Rams fans, those are 2 words no one wants to hear.
He's the numbers guy, and he's like, okay, we have no free agency. He's like, you either deal with us or you just sit. I set out half a season, my fourth year, going into my 4th year. So we're trying to figure out, okay, what can we do here? And my agent, Mike Bladden and Frank Bauer, came up with a great strategy. Because John Shaw was like, you just sit out the year and lose your year. And that year, my severance was jumping like $40,000. And we didn't want to miss out on that 4th year. So he went back to the league office and said, okay, what can we do to get Henry to play out the rest of the year? They said, you can go back to your old contract, prorate it for the rest of the year, and then play it out game by game. John Shaw didn't want to do it, but he had no choice in the matter. He had to sign it I think it was 6 games left. So sure enough, we did it. I ended up leading the receivers and catches, yardage, and touchdowns in this half a season. And after that, I never had an issue. When that season ended, we were fine. I signed a nice big deal after that. But then when I got to the end of finishing my 11th year, it was just quiet. Nothing's been said. So I'm like, wow, okay.
Infamous.
So we said, well, let's play this out and see what happens. And it's just amazing how God works, because Norv Turner, who was part of that John Robinson crew, as coaches, coached us between the tight ends and the wide receivers. Guess what? In '94, he became the head coach over the Washington Redskins.
Redskins, right?
Yeah, after leaving, of course, Dallas, after they made their run, the Super Bowl runs in Dallas. So Norv heard, okay, I'm up. Henry, come on over here. We're going to run the same offense. Let's keep this thing going. And Norv did a great job and just really extended my career by allowing me to come over to the Redskins and now the Commanders, of course, and finish out my career.
It's incredible. I mean, look, I don't want to make people uncomfortable, but at that stage in your career, after that many years, I think people forget you had 3 1,000-yard seasons with the Redskins.
Yeah.
Which as Rams fans don't want to talk about, but it's a remarkable career at that age and at that stage in your career. You put up 3 1,000-yard seasons.
And I took a lot of pride in taking care of myself during the off season and staying in shape and things like that. And the funny thing about my first year in Washington. Our last game of the year was in Anaheim, where the Rams was playing their last game in Anaheim Stadium. I came in as a visitor. And I'm going to tell you, that whole experience, I kept having to catch myself because I wanted to run into the Rams locker room or the Rams sideline because I wasn't used to being on the opposite side. But sure enough, we played that game the day before Christmas. It was December 24th. My wife flew back to LA a couple of days early. I brought all my stuff with me. So once the game was over, we parked up in the car because I was still living in LA at the time. So I had my stuff there. So when we left there, we got in the car, we drove home.
We just went home.
That is crazy. That is crazy. So, look, that's what people who listen to the show are going to be. I always wonder that. Henry comes back to Anna. Like, do you get confused? You're like, the uniforms, the locker room, you're like, oh, wait a minute, I don't play here. And then you just drove home.
Yeah, I just drove home. That was the nice part about it. Be able to be home, the night before Christmas and not have to worry about flying back because Noah allowed me to stay home since he knew I lived there during the off season.
Oh, outstanding. You know what? It's so many different scenarios and how guys separate themselves from the game. You chose to go into coaching. Tell us about that. What was that journey like?
Tell you what, it was kind of funny because my last year playing, someone had asked me, you ever thought about coaching? I looked them square in the eye and said, I will never coach.
I like it.
It's what I told them because I had that player's mentality. And I know what kind of hours the coaches put in. So I'm like, no, I'm good. Went back home after I retired, went back to Southern California. One day I was working out at I was a free agent. I hadn't completely hung up the cleats. I still wanted to play another year. But I was working out at a YMCA, opened up a newspaper in Southern California and read about the story. This small Christian high school had hired a coach. And 2 weeks before they were going to get started, he walked away.
Oh,
my heart went out to these kids. I said, you know what? I'm going to follow this story. And if they hire themselves a coach, I'm a volunteer. That's how I got into coaching.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's how it all worked out. Yeah. And I mean, after that first year, I fell in love with it. And it was kind of neat because Ernie Van Peasy became the offensive coordinator with the New England Patriots. He had Vincent Brisby, he had Terry Glenn, he had Troy Benson out there. They lost 2 receivers in one game. So he reached out to me and said, Henry, look, I lost a couple of guys. I would love if you would come out here for, 4 or 5 weeks to help us until we get these guys back. If it was anybody else, I wouldn't have done it. But Ernie Van Peasy jump-started my career in '88 when he came over. And we started putting that ball in the air and lighting it up. That's for sure. So sure enough, that's what I did. I flew out to New England on, I think I went out on a Monday night. I worked out on Tuesday. And this is so funny. Another story that ties into this is Tim McHire was a defensive back for the 49ers for a number of years.
Yeah. Yes,
talked a lot of smack. He talked a lot of smack. But I would never get into it with no verbal volume. I just look at him and smile. It drove me crazy. But anyway, sure enough, I get out there to work out. Guess who's out there? Tim McHire.
Tim McHire.
He's like, you remember the days back? Well, we were beating y'all down and this. You had your moments. So sure enough, we line up one-on-one. He's out there. I'm with him. I run a go route. Sure enough, quarterback threw the ball, touchdown. I looked at him. Remember the good old days, right?
Love it.
Yeah. So it was kind of neat how that all kind of worked out. But I was in New England for 5, maybe 6 weeks till they got everybody back. They said, okay, Henry, we got our guys back. Thank you for your service. And right after they let me go, while I was still in New England, Noah Turner called me. They had lost a receiver. He said, Henry, could you come finish out the season with us? So sure enough, we went from New England back to Washington, and I finished out the season. I retired after that.
Wow.
God, I'd forgotten all that. That's incredible. And then you went into coaching.
Yeah. I mean,
take a breath.
It started my last year before I went to New England. I was already coaching.
Wow.
And then the kids, it was neat because the kids got a kick out of it. The news station went over and talked to the kids when I was back out there playing and things like that. So it was kind of neat for them. But then after I retired, then next year I went back and coached the whole season with those kids. I said, you know what?
Good for
I
you.
kind of like this. So I called Pat Hill up at Fresno State. So, Coach, I'm thinking about this coaching thing. I think I want something I'm going to look into, but I want to get a full dose of it. Can I come up there and volunteer for a year? So then that was in 2000. I went up to Fresno, once I convinced my wife to move from LA to Fresno, I said, okay, here we go. But sure enough, I coached through that first year at Fresno State. And as soon as that year was over, that's where I get a call from Mike Martz, who was, of course, the offensive coordinator at the Rams, but then became the head coach because Dick Vermeil retired.
Oh, yeah.
Mike Martz recruited me and helped recruit me to Fresno State. That's where that connection comes from.
Yes. Okay.
So it's kind of crazy how it all came. So he heard I was into coaching. Henry, why don't you come out here and see what you think about it? I said, well, I don't know. I'm not sure. Then Ernie Zampese called me. Said, Henry, you may want to think about this. I said, okay, Ernie, if you said so, let's do it. And imagine this. First year NFL coach. I walk into my classroom. I see Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt, Ricky Prohl, Ozzie all sitting in this room. I couldn't ask for a better situation.
You're a Hall of Fame coach already made.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And they had a great work ethic and way they went about their business. They took a lot of pride in what they did. It reminded me of myself when they're out there on the practice field. They just carried what they did on the practice field into a game environment and just went to. So it was a blessing.
Unbelievable. I of course have this teed up, as Preston knows. Huge fan of that team of Isaac, Torrey, Oz, and I am absolutely a huge fan of Ricky Prohl, obviously.
Yeah.
What was it like coaching that group? I mean, so it's just incredible.
Yeah, it made my job easy. And the way we sat in the room was just like veteran players talking amongst each other, picking each other's brain. What did you do here? What did you do here? And Torrey, it was probably the young pup of the bunch. And I always share this with people that I talk to. I remember it was one game we were playing. Who was it against? I don't remember, but Torrey, I think, was in his third year. And the thing I always talk about is patience is your best friend as a route runner. You got to be able to have patience. But anyway, we were down inside the 10-yard line. We took Torrey and put him in a slot, left slot. We said, Torrey, it's going to be a play action. Kirk is going to fake it to Marshall. You try to draw the linebackers up. You run, you bend it right behind the linebacker as he comes forward. He goes, yeah. And Torrey was hype, always smiling, always bouncing. So sure enough, we get down there. Kirk is kind of going through his cadence. All of a sudden, the linebacker comes up and he's blitzing. So as he went to blitz, Torrey took one step and went inside right now. And of course, because of the fact Kirk had to go through the play fake, he wasn't ready to throw Torrey the ball. Torrey out of the back of the end zone by the time he threw the ball to him. We get a young guy, kind of anxious, So Torrey came off the sideline. He said, Torrey, what happened? He said, Coach, I saw the linebacker go out there, and I got to go right now. I was like, no, Torrey, that's not how it works. You got to understand how you tie into this play. Let's remember we had the play action to Marshall to draw everybody to get the linebackers up, let them throw over the head to you. For a touchdown. Oh, my bad, Coach, my bad. Later on that season, we're playing the Miami Dolphins. They got Patrick Surtain and Sam Madison, I think, was the corner. Shutdown corners, as they call them. And they talking mess. They come to our play. They say they're going to lock the doors to the dome. They're going to throw away the key so we can't get out. Isaac and Torrey was pissed. They took it personal. And sure enough, Torrey was running what we call a deep eight. Actually, up and over the top. Mm-hmm. And Torrey ran this route textbook. Did everything he needed to do. Sure enough, touchdown. He comes to the sideline with a big grin on his face, like always. I said, Torrey, what went through your mind? Tell me what was going through your mind. He's like, Coach, it's like I was running in slow motion. Mm-hmm. And that when he told me that, I told me he got it. He get it now because that's what everybody talk about, the zone. Everything just kind of slows down. And sure enough, he took that next step to have the patience to work the route like he's supposed to, and it benefited him. It worked out well for him, and it was neat to see that with a young receiver coming along and getting better.
He actually became known for that route, didn't he? I've seen Kurt Warner give
Yes.
interviews where he's like, nobody
Yes.
runs that route better than Torrey Holt.
Open over the top. Yeah.
Yeah.
Isaac was on the dig route like I would run, the 20-yard dig route.
Yeah.
And Torrey was up and over the top on the deep 8. And sure enough, that's how it worked out for sure. But it was a blessing to have a group like that, you know, and be able to coach these guys. That's for sure. Because like I said, it made my job easy.
It's amazing. Before we leave this, I have a million questions as I do every week. But I have to ask you, how underrated was Ricky Pearl?
Very.
I mean, extremely,
yeah, right?
right?
Right. They thought this kid can't run. He can do that. But, hey, he made play after play after play.
Yeah.
Look, of course, when they went to the Super Bowl in that NFC Championship game against Tampa Bay.
Yep. I got that picture framed right here.
No doubt. But just the way, like I said, he's just a veteran in the room, just sharing with these young guys what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. And he'll show you how to do that. And that's the great part about that. So
fun. I can't tell you what a thrill that is for Rams fans, right? To have two wide receivers here, but also to watch a Ram wide receiver give back to the wide receiver room of the Rams during what was a very special time in Rams history, even if it wasn't St. Louis. Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. It was a little different.
Did I say that? Okay.
Yeah. It was a little different.
That is a wonderful story.
Yeah, because St. Louis was a baseball town. It wasn't a football town. Mm-hmm. You know, I really believe that. So it was neat to see him finally come back home to LA.
Wow.
Yeah.
As Stacy has said, we could probably go on forever. I got one last question for you before we roll into the end of this. Heard about your coaching, heard about the motivating the guys and the pros at all levels, college and so on, all the way down to when you first started at that high school. What would you tell today's young footballer? I'll even make it more personal. Young wide receiver. What would be something that you would give them to really turn their focus into being the best wide receiver they can be?
I think the biggest thing, and I know that really helped me, is just the fundamentals. You got to be fundamentally sound. That's where it starts. You can't run enough cone drills, is what I tell them. Because like I said, what I did in my first year, I still was doing in my 16th year. That's what allowed me to play as long as I did. And that's route running, and that's cone drill. You know, it's the consistency of doing it over and over and over. Never get tired of doing the same thing until you perfect it. And that's what I tried to do by doing it over and over and over again. But again, that comes with the patience as a route runner. Patience is your best friend as a route runner. Guys want to get open in a hurry. You know, Torrey, perfect example of that. But again, if the quarterback's not ready to throw the ball and you're cutting the route short, it doesn't make a difference because he's not going to be able to get the ball to you. It's a big part of that, you know. It's just your repetition, you know. And how bad do you want it? Never be satisfied. You know, attitude of gratitude. You're blessed to do what you do. Don't forget that because it can be taken away just as fast as it was there. And that's something that was always a motivator for me. Between that and knowing I'm going to take care of my mom, that was a motivator for me. So I'm going to do everything I can to be as successful as I can so I can provide for my family.
Yeah.
There you go. I tell you what, sounds just like a coach. I mean, he's grown up as a coach. Okay, I got to ask you this. I've got the biggest pet peeve of this, and I'm old school. And I can't comprehend this, so help me understand this. I do not understand the hand positions of the receivers today because what I know is palms, direction of the ball going down. If you're catching balls like this, and it's always here, but there's never receiving and here, no clock theory, right?
Right.
Okay. I don't understand how the guys can catch. I mean, it's got to be a hell of a deal to be able to catch a ball 6 inches from the ground, but hands like this.
And,
You know, I don't understand it.
It's the glove.
Thank you.
Glove.
I love it. That's what I do.
Because like I said, with bare hand, it's hard to do. You naturally push the ball away from you.
Yeah.
When you have your hands turned down away from the way the ball just like you're talking about. These gloves nowadays is just amazing. from what I understand, so that helps with these, not taking anything away from the Beckhams and everything with these one-handed catches and everything, but the gloves are a big part.
But it is gloves.
Yeah, no doubt.
But I can't love that question Preston just lobbed in there enough. That is really cool insight from two wide receivers. The gloves have changed the game, right?
Oh, no doubt.
Okay.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's just
for me, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
I came in, catching barehanded because that's all I knew.
Yeah.
The only time I went to gloves is, of course, in Anaheim Stadium. In the early part of the season, the Angels were still playing.
The dirt.
So in the end zone, they got a warning track that had a little gravel. And I caught this pass for a touchdown with my hand underneath my body, and my hands just got chewed up from sliding on that gravel. And ever since then, I went to gloves to protect my hand from that gravel.
I remember I sat behind that track actually. So where I was watching you guys, like, oh my God, that is such a nugget. Like the old timers will tell you, hands, it's different game that way. Everybody wants to make a one-handed catch now, and even if they don't need to.
You're right, and it's just part of the game. It's a show. That's what it comes down to. And the other part of that, and I actually thought this was Preston was going to talk about, is they taking the fear out of the game, or the challenge out of the game. It's going to be touch football before we know it. I mean, I understand the safety in the rule. I can understand that, but still, it was a challenge for me to run across the middle of the field and avoid Ronnie Lott.
Oh,
that was a challenge to me. He caught me one time. I said, I'll never let this man hit me again because I won't play this game very long. but that was a challenge to me to be able to do that. But now that challenge is gone for the most part because they don't allow them to do that anymore. Mm-hmm. And I don't care for that.
Yeah, this is such killer shares from you two. I'm that guy now, get off my front lawn guy. And I'm looking at my son and his generation when they're over on Sundays, and I'm going, they're like, what are you, old guy? I've said, listen, the guys from my era lived in fear. Tatum, Lott, Atkinson, guys that when they went across the middle, they were earning every cent of that paycheck. Today, you can't breathe on these guys now. And I'm like, not the receivers of yesterday, man. They were, it was a dangerous position. And the young guys, oh, whatever, we're bigger, stronger, faster. I went, pop on some film.
Sure enough.
Incredible tidbits. Well, I will tell you that we could go on for hours. We do this every week, and it's just some fantastic shares. Thank you, Henry. I've got to say what will likely make you uncomfortable, but I'm going to say it again. Nobody who, when they're retires, that's caught 814 balls and just under 14,000 yards and 65 touchdowns, third, I might add, at the time of retirement, should not be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So I'll say it because I know everybody else is humble. I think Preston would agree. We talk about it online, offline.
Oh, yeah.
You are a player that should be in Canton, and I can only hope that that's happening sooner than later. I know there's a log jam at wide receiver. I follow it like every year, but yourself and London Fletcher have got to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So a million thanks. Preston, it sounds like you have some surprises in place for the 2-minute drill. Do I want to? Henry is bracing. I don't even know what's coming, Henry. So I'm just going to bow out.
All right. Well, it wasn't much, but there's just one question I have in there. But anyway, this is where we challenge our guests, and the wit and the smartness that you have and how quick you can respond to what we call the 2-minute drill, and how it is we just
how many timeouts do I get?
No, we may let you think about it for a few seconds, but I'm sure it's not going to be that tough.
You cannot ask your wife for any answers if she's
help,
anywhere within earshot.
All right. Are we ready?
All right.
Okay, here we go. 2-minute drill. Grass or turf?
Grass.
Enchiladas or tamales?
Tamales.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
7 route or the 9 route?
7.
Oh, I love him. I used to play with him. Woo. Okay, here we go. I know him well. All right, here we go. You ready?
Yeah,
Coaching or playing?
playing.
Your favorite movie?
Oh boy, that's a tough one. There's so many great movies, but Remember the Titans
Oh,
Okay.
with
All right.
Denzel Washington
yes.
is what I would
Yes.
tell you.
That's a good one. That's a good one. All right. Your most underrated teammate at any level?
Oh wow. I would say in college it was Stephon Page.
Oh,
Because, like I said, I got a lot of the passes and the way it was set up. But the neat thing about it, the bowl game that we played in out there, I didn't play in because I had shoulder surgery. So it gave him an opportunity to showcase himself, and he set all kind of records the day that I didn't play. But to me, he was just as good as I was. Just didn't get the opportunity that I had. That's all it was. But he had a chance to display that, and sure enough, because of that, he ended up in Kansas City.
Okay. All right. Next one. Up until now, because your greatest achievement is yet to come, but what would you say is your greatest achievement in the game to this point?
I would say that, and something I take a lot of pride in is my yards after catch. I'm like a 16.9. Was my when I retired was 16.9 yards per catch. Almost like the college thing was 24.
Right.
I took a lot of pride in what I did with the ball in my hands after the catch.
yeah.
Yeah, and you got to have the ball in your hands to do it.
Yak, yak, yak.
All right, my friend, here is the last one and the most important question of the night. You may even have a restless sleep because you'll be rethinking this answer. So you better be good at this one. You ready?
Oh, okay.
Who plays Henry Ellard in your first movie about your life?
Oh my God. Huey Gooding Jr.
Oh,
Okay.
that's
Okay. That's not a bad
It's
one.
hard.
That's not
That's
bad.
only because, of course, the movie Jerry Maguire,
Right,
what
right.
comes to mind in that situation. He's a little funny, I said, got a little something to him. I was like, okay, you keep people laughing, that's
that's a
for
great
sure.
choice.
Yeah, that was a good
But
one.
that's what I would think about.
Did that break the Denzel Washington answer streak, Preston?
I think it did.
Oh,
I feel like everybody picks Denzel. Like,
Okay, yeah, see, I can see him more as the coach part of it
Yes,
than as the
I
player
agree.
part of it.
I
Is
agree.
kind of what I look at with that.
Cuba Gooding.
But and then I want to one last thing I'd like to say. People that always ask me, "What was your greatest moment in your football career?" And the funny part about it, it has nothing to do necessarily with me playing in the game. I tell them this: the greatest moment in my football career is when I went over and took my mom. Said, "Mom, it's time for you to retire. It's time for me to take care of you." That's the greatest moment of my life. That's what I think God blessed me to play the game to bless her. And when I was able to do that and, get her a house, get her a nice little car so she didn't have to worry about, that's what playing the game was all about for me. I'm a mama's boy. I'm the baby of 9. So that was my motivation. She worked from 7:30 at night to 10:30 at night to 7:30 in the morning at a convalescent hospital to take care of us.
Wow.
My father was a truck driver. He was on the road all the time. But that's what that journey was all about for me. And God blessed me and allowed me to bless her because of that.
Outstanding.
Thanks for sharing that. That is so cool. Wow.
Henry, tell us where people, if they're interested to follow you, maybe you got a program or foundation or something, where can folks find you or be able to reach out to you?
It's a good question.
If you even want that.
What's your phone number, Henry? We want to give your phone
Henry,
number.
what's your address? Where do you live?
I have a Twitter account, but I'm just trying to remember what it is. I've never paid a whole lot of attention to it. I want to say it's Hop85, if I'm not mistaken. But that's the best place if you want to track me is to find me on Twitter.
Okay.
Is the way you can do that for sure.
Excellent.
But people, it's amazing because fans, no matter where I've gone, they found me. They tracked me down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they will.
But which I enjoy because I still get fan mail and I answer my fan mail. You know, it's something I enjoy doing, and especially reading some of the letters and some of the things that they talk about. So it's kind of a neat thing that people still reach out to you.
Okay. Well, now you have those golf clubs dusted off?
No, but I need to.
Okay. Well, hurry up and do it because I'm inviting you to my golf tournament next May 15th. And if you are available and you can make it, we'd love to have you here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Maybe I can sneak Stacy down here.
Oh,
but it's a wonderful time for ALS.
I can drive a cart.
Oh, my friend, thank you. This has been wonderful. Just love you. From day one when I met you, it was an athletic love affair. I knew you were going to be successful. You deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, and as well as Rosie and London as well. But it has been my pleasure to only have 1 year to play with you. It just amounted to a world of just friendship and just a great relationship. And I love what you have to say because it's exactly what I believed in. There's old school is the right school to be in.
No doubt.
Yeah. And as a fan, thrill of a lifetime, Henry. Thank you so much. I'm grateful to Preston for introducing us. And just as a fan, thanks for all the great memories. Those are my favorite Rams teams that you two played on. I love winning the Super Bowl as a fan this last year. That was fun. Yeah. But when everybody asked me, I go, my guys in the late 70s, 80s are my guys. So thank you. Thank you so much.
For having me.
And for everybody listening, please go find Henry. We will include his Twitter address in our post on all the social media. He'd love to hear from you. Thank you for joining us. Follow us on Gridiron Icon at YouTube, as well as Instagram and on all the major podcast hosting sites. Again, to the iconic Henry Ellard and my partner in crime, NFL legend Preston Denard. We are out here at Gridiron Icon. We will see you next week.